for New York and the New York court system. This has been a weaponization of government. They call it lawfare. Never happened to any extent like this, but never happened in our country before. It was done to damage my reputation so that I'd lose the election, and obviously that didn't work.
Joining me now, Saul Weisenberg, Fox News contributor and former deputy independent counsel, and Mike Davis, a former law clerk for Justice Gorsuch and attorney. Mike, let's start with you. Merchan's final remarks at today's sentencing. Let's listen.
Sir, I wish you Godspeed as you assume your second term in office. Thank you.
Mike, after this sham trial, we're supposed to believe he's being all respectful, or is this just an insulting dig?
This Democrat Manhattan judge, Juan Merchan, is partisan, he's corrupt, he's dangerous. He took our country to the brink. The American people heard all of these allegations and all of this so-called evidence with all this lawfare run by these Biden Democrats all over the country. And the American people delivered our verdict on November 5th.
Now, Saul, you say this case should be reversed on appeal. Specifically, give us the thumbnail on that.
Well, let me begin by saying I consider this the most nakedly political misuse and abuse of the criminal justice system in American history. And all of our thoughts about that, all commentary, should go through that lens. This case, as we all know, never would have been brought in New York on these facts against any other person. And in light of that, these pious comments today by the prosecutor and the judge about the rule of law are a joke. In terms of possible grounds for overturning the conviction, where do you start? I think one of the areas you start is that very important in terms of constitutional law is the question of presidential immunity. As we've talked about before on the show, Bragg made the decision, he didn't have to call former advisors to President Trump and get their testimony, and he mentioned, this was mentioned in the closing argument. That's a problem under the Supreme Court's immunity decision, and the Trump lawyers tried to litigate that issue. The Supreme Court hadn't ruled yet, but they wanted to litigate that issue before it went to the jury, and the judge wouldn't let them do it. So I think that's a powerful potential ground, but there are many others.
Mike, do you agree that if there's just a sliver of impartiality left in our justice system, this will be overturned on appeal?
There's no question this case is going to get overturned on appeal for many different reasons. As Saul was talking about, presidential immunity is one of the key ones, but also the fact this judge did not tell the jury that they had to unanimously agree on what the underlying crime was that somehow turned this bookkeeping misdemeanor into 34 felonies against the president. Look, Merchan didn't sentence President Trump to prison after 34 felonies. That tells you all we need to know. This was lawfare and election interference.
Now, Saul, on the Supreme Court decision yesterday, where you had the liberal justices and the chief and Amy Coney Barrett saying they're not going to get involved now, and then you had, the four conservatives, Kavanaugh, Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch, saying no, essentially this is a matter of national importance, and they thought it was important to step in even in an interlocutory basis. Were you surprised by that vote?
Well, I wasn't surprised by the result. Actually, I was a little surprised that it was so close. But keep in mind, all they wanted to do, the four dissenters, was to hear the case. They thought that the motion should be heard, not necessarily what they would decide. But one of the things Chief Justice Roberts, who wrote the opinion, made it clear was that one of the reasons they weren't intervening is because they took Judge Merchan at his word, always a dangerous thing, that there would be, he would be unconditionally discharged, President Trump, and would not go to jail. And they pointed out that he still has the appellate process. And so, though I know President Trump was Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
let's just get Mike on that real fast. Mike, I think it's a travesty. I think this whole thing should have been thrown out. It was a sham, and I think it should have ended with the Supreme Court. If they're worried about their credibility, they should have ended it.
How do you have presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, but not from criminal sentencing? The Chief Justice and Justice Amy Coney Barrett failed to do their job.
All right, so Mike, both of you, thank you so much. All right, Mark Zuckerberg reveals the truth about the COVID censorship the angle was telling you about all along. Next.